certainly over the last several weeks, the rhetoric has been amped up by a number of people. The governor, the mayor, other elected officials. The community is scared, to say the least. This happened in our community yesterday. It doesn't define who Minnesota is as a state or as a local community. And I think the problem is, people need to take a step back. Let this investigation go on. Let the facts come out. Let's look at it in the totality of the circumstances rather than ramping it up with things that are said, things that are done, things that you can't take back once they're done.
Look, Stu, usually we're hearing that from the mayor, the governor, the president, who Stanek left out there in the analysis of who's saying hot things. But the rhetoric aside, when you are assessing the specifics of the shooting, you heard my take on what the relevant testing is of what happened. What do you see and think?
So, Chris, my opinion is solely tonight without any political favor. It is strictly on the merits legally and based upon my experience not only in defending these type of cases, meaning representing families who have been victims as a result of officer-involved shootings, in particular people that have been shot while trying to flee. With that being said, the mission of DHS and ICE is necessary. That's a fact. There is a rule of law. And whether you agree with it or disagree with it, as long as the rules are on the books with respect to attempting to deport individuals that are here illegally, I will 100% support that endeavor. However, that endeavor does not operate in a vacuum. There are rules, there are policies, there are procedures in place with respect to require law enforcement agents or officers to operate and to adhere to those rules of engagement. We don't operate in a vacuum. And to the point of your guest, the rhetoric has increased, the threat level has increased, no doubt, to ICE agents, to local law enforcement across this country. However, we must adapt. With that being said, when I look at this shooting, when you take a look at the video and you slow it down, when you take a look at the wheels, the driver's side wheel, when she starts to move forward, you can see that the wheel starts to turn to the right. Notwithstanding this agent who has violated policy. Now, ICE agents operate under Custom and Border Protection policy in place, which says do not put yourself in front or behind a vehicle, only under the exception of when you're doing an inspection. So that officer, by placing himself in front of that vehicle, has created what I call an exigent circumstance, or has created or manufactured a situation that if, in fact, this individual decides to flee, he has put himself, by inserting himself in violation of department policy, to create a situation that obviously would require him to protect himself. However, this woman did not drive towards him. He was in her path of travel, trying to turn to the right. Unfortunately, I think at best he got broadsided or swiped aside. But if you take a look at his gun, he starts to take his gun out of his holster immediately upon her moving forward. Now, this circuit has ruled that you cannot look at just this isolated incident. You must look at the totality of the circumstances. And this circuit has opined, all the way up to the Supreme Court, that fleeing, people that get stopped may flee. That is something that law enforcement must anticipate, that people may take off. That is the very reason why you don't put yourself in front or behind a vehicle. And so if without any other facts, meaning this woman was a violent felon, meaning she had run someone over previously, or had committed a kidnapping, or had injured someone, at best, let's assume disorderly conduct. She was protesting. We don't condone her behavior. Maybe a misdemeanor. Maybe she decided to flee and take off. Another, perhaps, misdemeanor could no way justify the use of deadly force to stop her from fleeing, especially when the ICE agent put himself in front of that vehicle. In my opinion, and I am the biggest supporter of law enforcement, this may end up being a bad shoot.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.